Okay, it is time to celebrate Queensland. After more than 2 years of pain, life is finally returning to some kind of normal, with most remaining COVID check-ins and vaccine rules wound back in time for Easter. Let's discuss with Queensland Senator Matt Canavan, who is in Canberra this morning, and here in the studio, 2GB's Chris Smith. Nice to see you both. Morning. Now, Matt, I know that this upsets you deeply because no one loves a vaccine mandate as much as you, right?
Well, Ali, it's a great day in Queensland for people who have been locked out of their jobs for months. It's been very sad, very tough for people over Christmas. This started about a week before Christmas, and some people haven't been out of work since. So I just welcome them back. Hopefully they've got through the last few months and can provide for their families again. These things haven't worked. The mandates didn't work to shut down the virus. They certainly didn't cut transmission. I do hope, though, we can see sense and remove them from schools as well, because they're certainly not doing anything to help that. They're just causing workforce shortages. And also, look, I think the UK's made the right decision in getting rid of them from hospitals as well, because we just need more nurses, more doctors. That's the biggest issue in our health system. Not the vaccines themselves aren't certainly stopping COVID.
Your thoughts on what Matt's just saying there, or do you think Matt's idea is going perhaps a bit too far?
I agree generally with what Matt has been saying for a long time now. I thought we probably could have gone into 2022 without these mandates, because not only does it keep customers away to look after small business, but we've really got a problem with staff right around the country. And when you whack the mandate on top of that, you've really got a problem filling positions and gaps in workforces. However, I would have thought where the vulnerable are, and that is aged care and hospital, there is some, I think, evidence that they can work in those settings, and we've got to be careful about lifting those too early.
Yeah. Well, Matt, then just going further too, because there's been a fair bit of discussion lately about the close contact isolation rules, currently 7 days. Do you reckon that that's still fair enough? Because cases are still high, or is it time to relook at that?
It's totally ridiculous. I was locked away for 7 days last week. My teenage son got it. Fortunately for us, teenage boys are pretty good at self-isolating. The best of times and the worst, and none of the rest of us got it, but we were all locked up for 7 days. And we were joking as 7 in our family, and we were joking if each of us tested positive at the end of each week, we could be locked away for 7 weeks. It's just madness. I mean, we've got to get back to common sense. Yes, if you're sick, yes, if you've got symptoms, of course, stay home, test and isolate in that case. But if you haven't got that, people should be able to test and go out and get on with life.
Yeah, look, I mean, my son, he's 5. He ended up at home for 2 weeks, and he was at no stage was he actually sick, Chris. But if you look at New South Wales schools, you've got 1 in 5 kids currently off school because they're either in isolation or they've got COVID, and a whole bunch of teachers too. That's a problem.
Yeah, it has been a problem in terms of disruption, and they don't need any more disruption. But I think it's really good that we've got 3 out of 5 in school. If you go back to where we were 12 months ago, we had no one in school. There was no education except at home, and kids find it really difficult to self-discipline, and they find it really difficult to teach themselves. And we don't want to go down that track again. I think we should be thankful they're not the cohort that we're finding in hospitals or ICU. That is the most important bit. So therefore, the whole danger that's posed by this particular variant is not the threat that it should be in the general community.
I didn't pick you to be the optimist. 4 in 5 are in school as opposed to 1 in 5 are out. I like it.
Glass half full.
I like
Always
it.
glass half full.
It's 4/5 full in his case. OK, now look, the economic ghost of Kevin Rudd, he made a return to frontline politics yesterday. We saw the Shadow Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, echoing Mr Rudd's infamous sledge, this wasteful spending must stop. But at the same time, refused to reduce spending if Labor wins power. Matt, what did you make of that yesterday? And there's been a bit of an argument that he can't have it both ways, can he?
Well, I didn't think Jim came fully prepared. That was a very obvious question, and he didn't seem to have any original material. And it's not clear whether this is an alternative government or a Kevin Rudd tribute band at the moment. Jim worked for the Kevin Rudd government. Anthony Albanese is one of Kevin Rudd's trusted loyalists. Do they have any fresh ideas? Because we heard all this before 15 years ago when Kevin Rudd ran for government. He said that line, the wasteful spending must stop. He said he was a fiscal conservative. And then, of course, he got into government. We had school halls and pink bats and the more wasteful spending than we've ever seen. And so what is this government about? Because they're not telling us much. They're keeping everything very hidden. And I think people are asking themselves, what is this? Is this what are we going to get if the Labor Party gets into power in a few weeks' time?
Yeah, look, it was interesting watching Jim Chalmers yesterday, Chris. He was asked a couple of questions about having a nurse 24/7 in every aged care home, and seemed to be almost surprised by that. How many? What's it going to cost? And are there enough? Kind of thing. But there seemed to be a lack of detailed costings for Labor, and do you think that that is something that could spook voters?
As it did last time. Now, they had a lot more to lose last time in terms of the things that they laid on the table, which scared a lot of people. But if you don't cost what you're going to do, there's always a great deal of, I think, suspicion by the electorate. And this business about, oh, let's put a nurse 24/7 into aged care, it's so much easier said than done. We can't get enough doctors. We can't get enough in the bush, and we can't get enough nurses in regular hospitals as it is where the sick people are. It's not as easy. It's so easy to say that in an election campaign. And I think I agree with Matt. I think Jim got caught in the heat of heavy questioning yesterday. One minute he's saying those ghastly spenders. Next minute he's saying, but we won't cut spending. Like, talk about get splinters. He never saw a backside this morning.
Yeah, I mean, he kept talking about, but where we're going to spend, it's going to be quality, it's not going to be quantity. Now, I just want to finish on this, because front page news today of Australia's pact with the US to develop our own hypersonic missiles, playing catch-up to China and Russia's capabilities. Matt, I mean, I feel like this war rhetoric is starting to ramp up. We know that national security tends to play well for the coalition. Is this a bit of scaremongering? And should we be a bit suspicious of the timing of this?
Well, look, Ali, I can understand people here in Australia being suspicious. Yes, it's an election, and yes, government's going to make announcements. I hardly would think, though, that we could have roped in Boris Johnson and Joe Biden to join us on the 2022 federal election campaign trail to make this announcement. This has been a joint agreement by the three governments, and obviously the US and the UK are acting in their own interests, and it's very much in all of our collective interests to catch up with the technology here. We learnt this news as a world late last year. While the rest of the world were focused on the Glasgow Climate Conference, China tested a hypersonic missile that went around the planet and landed on its target. And that's a technology we do not have in Western communities. So the US at the time, the US Chief
And is that your government's failure that this isn't already in place then?
Well, look, it's obviously not just the Australian government's developing this technology, it's just the reality, Ali. And as I said, the Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley in the US, said that it was a Sputnik moment for the US. At different times, we have found us behind in the space race and other things. What we've got to do about it is get down to it and catch up and work very hard to do that. And that's what we're doing with our allies.
It's an embarrassment for the United States. The fact that this happened in August last year, went right around the globe, and we're talking 7 months later about three countries getting together to put one together. Russia has used theirs in the Ukraine already. What a bunch of dopes the UK, the US are. Australia doesn't build this sort of stuff. We've just come for the ride. But the US should have been doing this in September or October last year. It's an embarrassment. And it's an embarrassment for AUKUS as well.
But Chris, it's because we've been focused on things like climate change, mate. We've been focused on all these other distractions, and we haven't been focused on what's real. And hopefully we should be able to now.
We should be able to, balance all our balls, so to speak.
And I just love it when you do that as you say it.
That's what I meant. You know what I mean.
All right, I'm going to leave you with that image, ladies and gentlemen.